Optimal Social Security can help you down the road. You see, there are only a couple of different ways people tend to view their Social Security when they're trying to figure out the benefits of taking it early versus taking it late. And I want to present a different idea that you've probably never thought about in terms of how you think about your Social Security, and I'll do that today. You see, one of the most common ways people think about Social Security is the break-even idea, and that is, if I take my benefit early, I get I get less money for more years. And if I take my benefit later, I get more money, but for less years. At what point do these two equal the same amount of money? Spoiler alert, it's about age 80 for every single person. So the problem with this way of thinking is you have to die on time to win, or you have to die early to win. So that's the break-even way of thinking. The other way of thinking is what I call today money. And I just made that up, but they just think about today's money. Another way to think about this is what I call today math. Today math is something I just made up, but basically people often say, well, I need $8,000 per month, and between me and my spouse, my Social Security is going to be $6,000 per month. So I only need to have about $2,000 per month for my investments, and everything's going to be all right. Well, the challenge with that, without going into too much detail, is inflation gap is bigger than we think. And when we lose our spouse, our Social Security benefit goes down quite a bit. And so that's the challenge there. And then another one worth mentioning is invest the difference. People often say, well, if I were to take my Social Security at early, say at 62, and invest it, well, then would I be better off long term? And I'm not going to go into that in this video. We've covered that in other videos, but I want you to set all of those aside for a moment, because I'd rather you look at it from a different view. And I'm going to share that and even narrate that in a case study for you here in a second. Before we do that, if we haven't met yet, I'm Nick Davis, founder of Brindle and Bay Wealth Management, and we're here to show you how to retire with calmness and clarity. If you enjoy these videos and you want to see more of them, you know the drill. Hit that subscribe button, hit it twice so that you get notified every time a video comes out. Thanks for that. All right, as I get ready to show you a case study, I need you to consider one thing, and that one thing is something I feel people do not appreciate or realize about retirement income when we are naively just working and getting our paychecks, imagining the day that comes when we are no longer at work. We tend to overlook the real thought that retirement spending changes over time. Doesn't sound very profound, I know, but it does change, and it changes for various reasons, but one reason is inflation. Another reason is life cycles. So you spend more money right when you retire, and then you gradually spend less money, and then towards the end of life, you spend more money. That's called life cycle, or some people call it the spending smile. And then a third reason is what I call the retirement lottery. And the retirement lottery is you don't know, when you're going to retire and what inflation in the market's going to do. How good or how bad is inflation going to be during your retirement? How good or how bad is the market going to be during your retirement? Will you retire in a time period like 2009, and then for more than 10 years, the market just goes up, up, up? And in that case, your advisor may nudge you to spend more money. Or will you be the person who retired in the 70s, early 70s or mid 60s, and then you got hit by stagflation during your retirement? And, the likelihood of you needing to reduce your spending actually may happen for you, right? So we can't control what time period or what may happen to us. So let's keep this reality in mind when we look at a case study with somebody thinking about taking Social Security at 62 versus 67 versus 60 versus 70, 62, 67, and 70. I told you to throw those other ways of thinking out, replace it with this question. What income experience do I want to have during bad times? All right. Keep that in mind, because I think that's a better way of getting clarity on how you want to take your Social Security benefit. All right. We're going to look at a base case story so you can understand what's going on here. So again, we've got Timmy and Tammy, 63 and 62. They're on track to have about $122,000 in total income before taxes. They have a house. They have bank accounts that are not included in their income plan. And then they've got some investment accounts totaling just over $1.5 million between their 401k and non-qualified accounts. So look at cash flows, just to kind of illustrate things out here. You can see in one scenario, she takes Social Security at 62. In fact, all scenarios we have the smaller amount take Social Security early, and then as long as she's not working. And then the larger person is going to either take it at 62, 67, or 70 to kind of test this. Now here you can see $0 from Social Security until he turns 67, and then the income turns on and she's got Social Security. And then you look at the portfolio withdrawals, they go from 6-figure withdrawals per year, and they drop down to 5-figure distributions or withdrawals from their portfolio. And that's reflected in this chart here, where you can see, I often talk about the spending hatchet, and this yellow represents the distributions from the portfolio being greater. And then this baby blue is his Social Security turning on, and then her Social Security. And then when he passes away, there's a greater distribution need from the portfolio again, because his Social Security drops down, and now she has a smaller amount of Social Security coming in. So we're going to do a stress test. And to be clear, what we are not looking at is total Social Security income. I repeat that. We are not looking at total Social Security income. We are looking at total income from all sources as influenced by Social Security, because we've built a couple different plans that we can look at, and the only difference in these plans is the timing of their Social Security. Okay. So we can now look at different time periods and see how many time periods will we have been able to increase our spending versus decrease our spending. So we're going to look at 62 versus 70 first, which is the most extreme. And we're going to look at the year 2007. The baby blue represents planned income at age 62. And the reason it goes down, planned income if they took Social Security at 62. The reason it goes down is because of that spending smile, meaning it's just that 1% less income every year after inflation. So increase it for inflation, but then decrease it by 1% per year to just kind of mimic the spending smile. And this is the planned spending. The dark lines are the allowable spending. So the dark blue is if they took Social Security at 62. The gold is if they took Social Security at 70. And you can see starting off retirement, there'd be about a $500 a month difference, meaning there'd be $500 more if they waited per month, so $6,000 a year per month, if they would have taken it at 70 versus 62. And again, this is allowable from their all sources, so it includes Social Security plus portfolio withdrawals influenced by what's going on in the market. So we know that at 08 and 09, there was some really bad times in the market. And in this plan, they were able to kind of not have to reduce their spending below their planned spending. And then after we get through this amazing period where the market goes up, 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 they're told they can increase their spending by $1,400 per month, okay, on the 70. It actually just happens a little bit earlier for them who take their benefit at 70 versus 62. So during good times, not much that we can tell except that there's more spending. But what about bad times as well? So we go to the dot-com bubble, we see a similar period. If they would have retired at the 1999, they would have had more spending with 70 versus 62. But never did they have to dip below their baseline desired spending, even at taking at 62 in those situations. But when we get into stagflation, we see that there's one period when tested where this spending would have gone down with an age 62 Social Security claiming below the desired planned spending to the tune of $800-900 per month, which is pretty significant for 3 or 4 years here. In the early 80s, this person would have had to reduce their spending. If they would have taken their benefit later, they would have never had to reduce their spending below their planned spending. In fact, they would have always been above their planned spending. And then just lastly, we'll look at the Great Depression, 62 versus 70. During the Great Depression, taking it at 70, they would have still had to reduce their income below their planned spending. But it would have been for a lot shorter of a period of time. So here during a bad time, we can see the benefits of waiting a little longer on Social Security. Now let's look at age 62 versus 67, which is more palatable for a lot of people. We don't have to go as radical as waiting to 70. And let's just compare the difference there. So we can see, again, more income earlier during good times and just more income overall. During the dot-com bubble would have been more income. And for a couple of years earlier, there would have been a higher level of income for sure if we took it at 67 versus 62. And then stagflation, we see that there's still this dip here, and that's because 62 is showing that there would be a reduced amount during halfway through your retirement. However, at age, if we would have taken it at 67, we would have been preserved from that. And so we wouldn't have had as much money as if we'd taken it at 70, but we would have still been much better off. Okay. And of course, if we look at the Great Depression, it's probably a similar story where here you can see that 67 keeps you in the gutter a little longer than 70, because at 70, you were actually out of the gutter earlier. All right. So that's 62 versus 67. And then just for giggles, we'll do 67 and 70, because I know some people ask that question a lot. 67 versus 70. And just clicking through here, you can see that 70 versus, there's not much of a difference. There's, you're told a little bit earlier that you can spend money, more money during then the dot-com bubble. And then during stagflation, both age 67 and 70, there was no period where they had reduced below their desired planned lifestyle. So in fact, just real quick, let's look at the Great Depression. You can see there's that comparison where 70 would have definitely shielded them better than 67 during the Great Depression. Remember, we're just looking at the total spend allowed from all sources, not strictly Social Security, but this is greatly influenced by early cash flows from Social Security versus late cash flows from Social Security, and smaller amount of Social Security versus larger amount of Social Security. Remember, when we retire, we don't know if we're going to be the lucky ones or not, but looking at what has happened historically, which similar things could happen again, can go a long way to help in you with making that decision. Your other money spends better during hard times when you have more Social Security. And I'll tell you what we tell our clients at Brindle and Bay, and that is, you're the boss. You get to make your own decisions. Our job is just to make that picture as clear for you as possible so you can feel good about your decision. So I made another video about when it might be smart to take your benefit early and some reasons for that. And I'll put the link right here. Hey there, it's Nick again. I wrote something that you might be interested in. If you want to know what my favorite retirement income strategy is for most people or many people, we refer to it as the Money Master Guardrails. If you're contemplating what your income strategy for retirement may look like, I invite you to download a copy of my white paper. Get the insights you need. Download a copy today. The link is in the video description.